Before we jump into today's conversation, if you're enjoying Exposing the Hidden Reality, make sure you're following or subscribed wherever you listen. That way, our newest conversations will be waiting for you each and every week. And if you know someone who would enjoy these conversations too, we'd love for you to share the show with them.
Woohoo. So what are we getting into today?
I thought we'd talk about career pivots. And I thought we'd start
Ooh.
first with something I think people often get wrong about career pivots. We treat the result, the actual pivot as the pivot. And what I'm talking about is somebody leaves a company, somebody changes industries, they go back to school, they start a business, they take a completely different kind of role on. And most people would point to that moment and say, that's the career pivot. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that most people would point to it, but I think it happens way before that.
I agree with you. And let's go like how far way before? I think it's months,
Years.
sometimes years. Yeah.
Let me jump right in there and say years.
Well, right. It could be years. And I've seen it. Something happens in the moment and people are like, I'm out of here. And that decision is made. And then they go and follow up and make the actions happen to make the pivot happen. But usually it's a very slow burn. And then all of a sudden people leave and everybody else around them was like, how did that happen? Why did that happen? But they don't know.
I think about my career pivot out of corporate.
Yeah.
It was a very slow burn for me.
Okay.
And and I think it's interesting because as you were explaining that, and after I said, "Oh, it takes months," and you said, "Yeah, well," or "It takes years," and you said, "Well, it could also just take months."
Yeah.
I thought, "Yeah, because I just take years, period."
Okay. So you might be one of those people that is years. Is that
Yes.
what I'm hearing?
Oh, yes. I am definitely a years,
So walk
I
us
might
through that because what is happening or what happened for you
yeah.
that made it a very slow burn years kind of process? Let's talk about
And so let's distinguish
Yeah.
between there were many times I moved to different companies, but stayed doing the same work.
Mhm.
When I talk about career pivots, I'm not talking about I switched companies. Those decisions came relatively quickly for
Sure.
me.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is I need to be doing something completely different than what I'm currently doing
Mhm.
because I can't see myself doing what I'm doing right now somewhere else.
Okay.
For me, there were lots of career shifts that involved moving to different companies, but still kept doing the same work that I was doing. The career pivot was really much longer. It was I don't feel happy. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't want to do what I'm currently doing somewhere else because I am at a company that I love. I work with people that I really enjoy, and I've done this job in other companies, so I know it's not going to get better just by moving to a different company. There was that level of certainty. The feeling underneath it was, this isn't what I want to be doing anymore.
Anymore.
This isn't bringing me fulfillment. A huge part of it was I just feel tired. And when I go to bed and I wake up, I don't feel rested. I would drive home from work and I would be in this constant panic about getting to the kids on time and then rushing through dinner and my life and then feeling like, well, I'm not spending any time living my life. I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm not being in my life. I'm not participating in my life. I don't see myself showing up in my life in the ways that I want to.
Yeah.
I didn't feel energized. I didn't feel excited. I felt empty. I felt numb in many ways.
Mm.
And so I just knew that something had to give. I'm curious, Annette. That was my experience.
Mhm.
What do you see when people come to see you?
What I see when women come to see me is that something has shifted for them. And it could be the work itself, like you were saying, I don't feel fulfilled, or it could be a life circumstance has changed. And I see this a lot with their children. Something will happen like, ooh, the kids are back in school. Now I'm in a safe place where I can make a big decision. Or the kids are out of school, like maybe they're adults and there's a time that they feel like they can dedicate to themselves now. And or there's a big shift like caregiving for a parent or a loved one.
Mhm.
So usually it coincides with a life change, and then the things they were willing to tolerate before become less and less tolerable. And they say,
Mm.
I've been thinking about it for a while. It didn't feel like a right time, but now there feels like a natural break, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
It feels like that conversation we were having in one of our earlier episodes where we said everybody can do something for a short period of time, but what's it costing you? For me personally, when I was going through this, I had gotten to a point where I had done the things that I wanted to do in my life, but I had finally gotten to the point where financially I could make the decision to leave. My life was at a point where I realized the boys were 9. They were gonna turn 10 that year. My daughter was 6, and I just thought, the next 10 years of my boy's life is going to have them moving aggressively further away from us,
Mm.
and I just thought, it's slipping by, and I really felt like I wanted to do something different. And again, it's not about making it all about them. It was just that who I was being, how I was showing up in my life, and how I wanted to show up in my life were very different. And I didn't want the kids growing up out of the house and then looking back at this time and saying, Mom was a ghost.
Yeah. So you were imagining your future, maybe even dreaming
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
And then what you saw, if you continued the same way that you were going, was not a reality you wanted to make come true. And thinking
Yeah.
this could be different. And not just for you, but for your whole family.
Absolutely.
And that's the imagination that I hope career professionals can stop and take a few moments for. Maybe not every day, but maybe every week, definitely every month, and say, what is it that I want? What is it that I want to get out of it? And so I talk a lot about helping people review their success, where they are, what they accomplished. And I would say the same thing for your personal life. What have you felt successful in your personal life? What have you accomplished? What do you wish was different? And then evaluating those answers through a few different lenses, which is professional and personal, so that you are certain that you're headed in the right direction and that you won't look back on this part of your life and say, oh my gosh, I missed this, I missed that.
And it's so interesting because that's exactly what happens when women come to see me. They'll say things like, "Oh, I feel lost. I'm not sure what I want to do.
Sure.
And I don't feel like this is just about changing my job." So I go through a wheel of life exercise with them on a scale of 1 to 5.
Mm.
How do you feel about your work? How do you feel about your spiritual life, your family, your finances, your extended family, your education, community support? One of the things that I find so interesting is that we live in a culture focused so much on career that when you start asking them about hobbies, when you start asking them about things that have nothing to do with work, there's like almost a panic, right? Like, I don't
Mm.
have time for all of this. Where am I supposed to find time to have hobbies? I remember sitting there when I was going through this for myself and thinking, I used to crochet, I used to knit, I used to draw. And I recently posted about I have doodles that I find all over the house. And I had realized I hadn't been doing any of that. I hadn't been doing any of that creative work that is such a part of who I am. And I think that's what happens to a lot of high functioning women. We have so much on our plate. Career is important. Then we bring on family. And then it just becomes so overwhelming that the last person we have time for is ourselves.
Ah, this I think brings up a good question, and I'm asking you about it because I feel like it's right up your alley, and I know you'll have a good piece of advice for all of our listeners. What happens when the part of you that's saying, "This doesn't feel right. I don't have time for hobbies. I'm never feeling rested." Happens when that part of myself or ourselves is at odds with the part that says, "I have so many things to be grateful for."
Mm.
Right, or other
Welcome
people having
to
it worse than me, right? I hear that a lot.
I said it to myself so much.
Sure, absolutely.
I have no right to feel this way.
Mm,
What am I complaining about? I have a good job. I worked really hard to get here.
Yeah.
I can do all of these things because I have this good job. I have 3 amazing children. It is very much a thing that gets played out in our heads.
Mhm.
And I would ask you, if your girlfriend came to you and said, "I have no right to feel this way,"
Right.
what would you really tell her? Would you tell her, "You're right. You have no right to feel this way"? You would say, "No." You would say, "Your feelings matter too."
Yes, I would say your feelings matter. You feel how you feel. You don't have to edit that. The other thing about these feelings is they can both be true at once. You
Yes.
can have deep, deep gratitude for all of the things that you have and the way that your life goes and a healthy family. That can be great. And you can still have this piece of you that feels unfulfilled or tossed aside or put in the cedar chest for another
Yes.
day. We don't have to resolve all the things at once.
Yes.
And it's okay to feel the feelings all at once.
And I would add for moms, especially moms with girls, of which I am a portion of that demographic. What are you showing your daughter?
I dare say that if you have children at all,
Yes, absolutely.
what
It's
are you
important for
showing?
boys to see it too.
Yes, right?
But
Because if they grow up and have a significant other that is a woman, they would maybe wanna understand what it feels like.
yes. The reason I focus specifically on daughters is because I think as women, we receive so much messaging that our role is about others rather than about self focus. And we tend to look negatively on women who are self focused or when women demonstrate self focus. And so, one of the things that I like to say to the women who come see me who are moms of young daughters is she needs to see you making yourself a priority. She needs to see that. You need to model that for her. Otherwise, you are reinforcing the stereotype that says your life is about sacrifice.
Mhm. Yeah, and everybody has to come before you. Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent, and we've talked about it in other episodes, that our children see what we model much better than they see what we say. If we constantly tell our daughters that they have every right to do whatever, to take care of themselves or to be self actualizing, but then do everything in our behavior that models self sacrifice. They don't get the message about self actualization. They get the message that their role and their job is about self sacrifice. So, who are you being in your relationship with your daughter is very important to me personally, because I have a daughter. I think it's also really important that we as women take that seriously. So, yes, all those things that you said are true. I do have a lot of things. I am grateful for a lot of things, and that is not all of me. And I can ask for more. And maybe this is a sign that there's something deeper going on. Jung talked about shadow work and about self individualization, and this feeling of unfulfilled, this feeling of there's something else going on here. These are all the things that point us to do that work. Do we have to do that work? No. But it is one of the things that points us to actually do the work is when we experience these moments of deep avoidance, deep dissatisfaction, deep thought. Okay, so like I'm really far down this rabbit hole. And I'm wondering, why do you think people stay where they are? Why don't they just move? I mean, I certainly have some thoughts on that one. I know what kept me in place, but I'm wondering what you see as a career coach.
Couple of common themes that play out again and again is they don't know what they want. So how can I clearly make a leap or clearly pivot if I don't know what's out there? I don't know what I want and I don't know what's possible. Those are huge. And then some of the other huge factors are general fear. I can't make this change. I can't take a job less. I can't make less money. I don't have the education. I'm not
Mm,
certified in XYZ. Those are common fears that I hear. And one of the other pieces is how they are so closely identified with their role or their title.
mm,
And that's, listen, I think that's a very common thing in the US in general. When we meet somebody, We're like, "Hey, what's your name? Oh, what do you do?" Like the job is our identity, and it shouldn't be, but it very, very is closely tied with our personal identity.
4 years ago, I did an interview, and it was all about that. It was about the grief associated with leaving our roles, how impactful that is because it is such a large part of not just our lives, but our identities.
Mhm.
I spoke quite extensively about how long it took me to actually let go and process that grief.
And it doesn't mean you weren't successful. It doesn't mean you weren't a good whatever that title was, a good teacher, a good customer service manager, a good IT manager, right? It doesn't mean any of those things, but it can feel like that.
And it was my choice to step away.
Mhm.
It was my choice to say, I want something different for myself.
Yes.
And I experienced grief.
I think
Can you imagine all the people who go through this for whom the choice is not theirs
yes.
and how much extra grief there is?
How many people question, did I do something wrong? What about me wasn't good enough?
It's awful.
It's hard to process big transitions, even when you walk into it with your eyes open. Think about friendships, work friendships, right? Somebody you've worked with for years, somebody you walk past the front desk receptionist, or I don't know, somebody you see in the parking lot, somebody you go to lunch with every week. And then when you leave a place of work, all of a sudden those things are shifted. And even if it was your choice, you might still grieve those things.
Yes. Yeah.
That's tough work, and maybe talking about it is enough so that when somebody experiences that, they'll know. They'll know for themselves.
Mm.
So what else you think is hanging out there about career pivots that we haven't quite touched on yet?
I'm just going to go back to my situation.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me that was going to be impacted by making this choice.
Yeah, true.
I am in a marriage. We have plans, we have goals, we have a set of financial commitments that were made based on two incomes.
Right.
It wasn't just about me, it was also having to negotiate, discuss,
Mhm.
work through with another person who may not even understand what you're going through or may not understand as much as they're trying to why this is such a big deal. And then on top of that, add the fact that what if I make this choice and a year from now, I regret this? 3 years from now, 6 months from now, what do I do about that? Can I come back? Has the world moved on without me?
Mm.
Like, even now, I'm 10 years post this decision.
Yeah.
I receive IT jobs all the time. And I look at them and I'm like, wow, I could go back to that. And some of my financial problems might be resolved tomorrow if I went back to that. And so then you start thinking, well, what are they going to say about this break that I've had? How is that going to
Mhm.
translate? How is that going to impact me? Have I lost space because I don't know the latest security technologies? Right. Especially in a space like technology, 10 years can make a big difference.
Huge.
Okay. Huge
Yeah,
difference.
right.
Now I look at it from the perspective also that, but my process information hasn't changed. How
Mm,
to manage a project hasn't changed.
correct.
How to manage a process hasn't changed. How to manage people, how to lead up, how to hold people accountable. All of those things haven't changed. I can learn the technology stuff. So I'm a little less afraid of the gap in the years, but it still has real estate in my brain.
Mhm, mhm.
Right? It still has a spot where what are people going to say? And then when we're going through this, when we're going through any kind of change like this, what I see in my clients is one, they want somebody to tell them.
Yes. Permission. They want permission or they want somebody to say, "You should. Go ahead."
You should, yes. And then the other thing they want, which of course I never do, right?
No, it's
It's
not
like, why
okay.
won't you tell me? Because it's not my life. I don't have to live it. I don't have everything you have. I have my own problems.
Like, "Don't ask me. I don't know."
I mean, I certainly have my opinions,
Correct.
but I'm not gonna share them with you. because I don't want to impact you one way or the other.
Correct.
But I think the other aspect of it is we just want to get to the other side. We want to, one of my favorite poems is Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken. There I stood in a dark wood and tried to evaluate each path. And down I looked one path as far as I could to see how it was going to go. And then you have to make the decision. And the decision is everything. You have to make the choice. Which path am I going to take?
Right.
And in making that choice, you're not going to come back because way leads on to way. And I saved that one for another time, but I'm never going to come back there because even if I go back there, the timing is different. It might be summer instead of winter. It might be fall. It might be rainy. It might be who knows, right? I mean, I can take this analogy and like run with it for the next hour. Well, my point is, which is why I love that poem so much. But the whole point is we want to get to the other side. We want to see what that other side looks like so that we can make the decision now. And the answer is we can't.
Yeah, it's not there.
That's not how it works.
No. And that brings me to inner trust. How much of a pivot is just inner trust?
Yeah, I think that is just such a huge thing. We're not isolated people. Every decision that I make for myself, for others, impacts all the other people in my life,
Yeah.
right? It impacts my children. It impacts my dogs, for crying out loud. Like, seriously. And I think that is such a huge thing when somebody else's life could be impacted by a decision that you make. Trusting yourself with that decision can be that much harder.
It can be.
I'm curious, Annette, when people come to see you, sometimes we're going through something.
For sure.
We don't have a simple answer. So we start looking at maybe a career change as maybe this is something I need to do. Or we've had a really bad week. Or I just got a new boss and they're nothing like my old boss. And I don't think I'm going to be able to pull through this. How do you help people who are going through this decide, is it just a bad week? Has it just been a bad season? Or is there something else that's going on here?
I love that question. And it's not an easy one to answer. There's a part of career coaching that I call career exploration. What's out there for me? What's next? But also a bit of that is related to what's going on for you. And is this being brought up by you running away from something and not knowing what you're running towards? Or is there something that is calling you and you're just not sure you want to answer that call? So it's separating those two. Am I running away from something or am I running towards something? And if you're running away, because sometimes we are, right? These things that you've talked about are very real. Toxic workplace, a ridiculous boss. Those are real factors that happen. So yes, we need to probably run away from those. But is there something else for us on the other side? Or are we just so worried about getting away that we leave at all costs without running through the list of, is this a good move? Is this a long-term move? Do I make this short-term move knowing that I might need to move again in 6 months or a year?
I think one of the things that you're bringing up here, I just want to jump in for a moment. This is exactly why having a coach is so much better than using a trusted advisor, because you as the coach, you're an independent viewer.
Yeah.
Everybody else we're going to talk to has a stake in this decision.
Yes. Especially people you may currently work with, family members. They're listening to you. They love you. They want you to do the right thing for you. But yes, they're invested and interested in the outcome. Not that your coach isn't invested in the outcome. They want what's best for you, but they are an objective third party that can say, Sandra, is that really what you want to do? Are you so worried about running away from your toxic boss that you're really going to take a $40,000 pay cut? Those are the questions that I would be asking you to spur you. And gosh, who knows what you get as the new boss. One of my clients went into a new job, was very excited about it. And within the first year, their current boss, the person that hired them, left the organization. You can't control all those factors. It's important to have a really good leader, knowing that you really have very little impact on that outcome. Maybe you would make a different decision.
And I think this goes back to the question you were asking about self-trust. Do you trust yourself to deal with whatever comes up in the new job, since so much of it you
Can't
can't
predict.
see far enough into the future, right?
Yes. And just like I've heard hiring managers moan about this a little bit. Oh, I hired this person. This is who they were in the interview. And then the person that actually showed up for work was somebody different. We've all had that experience as a hiring manager.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know you don't. It's never happened. But think the reverse. Think how many people have been onboarded. They start this new job, and 12 weeks later, they're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? This place is a nightmare. These processes are bad. Nobody cares about me. So,
And that is actually what happens, because there's the honeymoon phase
yeah,
and then there's the shock phase.
right.
So we always experience a dip in the new hire process. That's where the risk comes in. Are they a flight at that point, right?
Mhm. Yes. And so onboarding, I mean, I could go into onboarding forever. That experience, bringing somebody new onto your team is a huge experience. And then your responsibility to yourself as the new hire being onboarded, huge process. And there's a way to do it that will help you get through it and help you take charge of what you can control so that you get what you need out of it. And you're not always relying on somebody else to guide you through or walk you to everybody else's door to meet them. You take charge of that process. Back to your original question, getting to the root of why you need this change right now is really important. What is your motivation? What has you finally saying, I'm ready to hire a coach because I have to get out? And then taking action based on your real feelings and needs instead of, I just have to get away from what's over there.
And you might need to just get away
Absolutely.
from what's over there.
And I've worked with people like that. I'm sure you've worked with people like that in your practice as well. Some people just have to get out. It is so bad. They just have to get out. And then there's also questions we can talk about there too. Do you have the financial means to just get out? What happens? How long can you support yourself? What, and not that I have those answers for them, it's to get them thinking about those answers, work with their trusted financial advisors so that they know what's the next best step for them and clearly map it out.
Yeah. And what you're raising, I think, is a good point. We can often feel so overwhelmed in the decision or in the situation that we're in. We don't even know what we need to be thinking about. And so, even just talking with someone, having them ask those questions,
Ugh.
having them play through a few scenarios with us can also start to formulate the, okay, I'm not ready right now, but these are the things that I need to start thinking about because I am going to be ready. There's no question about this. I do need to make this move, but I'm not ready right now. So, one of the things that I did was I actually decided that I was going to go back to school and retool in different ways.
Mhm.
One of those ways, accounting just doesn't end up being my thing.
Yeah,
Once I hit tax accounting, I realized, oh, yeah, no,
not
no, no.
not
Lots of other accountings, but not tax accounting. This is crappy. I don't like this. So the CPA route wasn't really going to work for me, but it led to other things.
yes, yes, and it led for you to start exploring what those options were. You started imagining how you'd want your days to be, how you'd want to work, how you'd want to be the example for your family. Oh, and can I take us back to that point? Because I was going to tell you something. You were saying that part of your pivot, your huge reinvention, was related to how you wanted your daughter to see you moving through your life. And I think that's amazing. And I see a lot of women do that because they say, I have kids, I have a daughter, then I need to show what it's possible for them. Perfect. And then there's other women that are watching you move through life, maybe a sister, a friend, a cousin. It might not even be somebody that you're completely aware of as watching your journey. And if you think that you might have somebody in your life that needs to see that, I think that's another good motivating reason to not stay stuck and stay miserable just because you're worried about how it's going to look to others. Yeah. There's somebody watching you that needs to know that they're worth it because they saw that you know that you're worth it.
That's so true. We don't realize who's watching. Everyone's watching,
Yeah.
whether we want them to or not. That was what like 42 to 49 was all about, right? People are making up stories about us.
They are making up stories about us, and we were always, in a way, saying that was a bad thing. But somebody could be making up a story about you that is also a good thing or has impacted them in a positive, good way.
Yes.
And so, yeah, maybe not all stories are bad stories or stories that we have to correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that.
So, what might it look like if somebody starts trying to explore how to make these moves? Do they call a career coach? I mean, I only know what happened for me, which was I started thinking about going back to school. But I'm just curious, since this is the field that you're in, what do you see people doing to start this exploration?
I think they allow themselves the chance to evaluate and explore a little bit. What's something that seems cool for them? Do they get the job descriptions delivered, right? Are their job openings being delivered every day to your inbox? I know you said you still get ones related
Oh
to
my
your
gosh.
corporate career, but sometimes that keeps you interested, or sometimes you see something that says, "Ooh," and it sparks something for you. Can you go back to your alma mater and see what people graduating in your field now are doing? These are all great ways just to get the interest going and get you back into it. You can read articles, you can read books. I'm a big proponent of reading. And then when you're ready to talk about it, you can engage with a trusted advisor, mentor, sponsor. And then when you think, I'm going to make this change, I'm going to do this, then yes, you would start interviewing some coaches and say, hey, this is what I want to do. Most folks like you and I, Sandra, offer a chance to have a little bit of a strategy session or an exploration call. And maybe you can use that time to vet some of your ideas and hear what somebody else has to say about them. And then there's a path, there's a framework, there's something that somebody can walk you through to make sure that you are confident with your own decision. And then you take the actions.
What's the framework?
I have a framework that I created. It's called Career, and the acronym stands for Connect, Achievement, Responsibility, Evaluate, Exit, and Reinvent. They are not these exclusive boxes that you have to put yourself in. And often during your career, you're going to float through the career framework, but connecting is often how we get like those first jobs or get the job that we're in currently, right? Did somebody refer you in? And then for the achievement, the job's going great, right? You're hitting your targets, you love it, it's interesting work. And then responsibility is that piece where most of the clients that I work with feel a shift. A shift in their responsibility causes them to look at everything they're doing and saying, what am I doing here? Why is it not going so well? Why don't I love it anymore? And then that puts you in evaluate. And evaluate says, what are my options? What am I doing? And then if you truly are evaluating your options and you find better options, then you start to say, okay, I think I can exit this circumstance here and I can reinvent myself. And again, see how that's super fluid. Sometimes people evaluate and say, I cannot make a change now. I need to make sure my kids get out of school. I need to get out of school. Whatever circumstances help you evaluate and say, I'm going to stay here for now. And then they stay. Or you can start to reinvent yourself inside of the role that you're already in. Maybe that's an option where you say, I'm going to take on more responsibility. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to hop back in. I'm going to reinvest in this self, in this role, and I'm going to stay here. There's so many options, but that is the framework where I help people identify, where are you right now? And let's see where you'd like to go next.
I think that's so affirming because a lot of people have this idea that if I start the exploration process, it means I'm leaving.
It could mean that. It could also mean that you decide based on all the evidence you've uncovered that you're going to stay, that that's what you want for right now. It doesn't have to be a long-term decision, but it could be what happens until you've decided you're going to take the next step.
Yeah. It could be like me.
It could.
Cost accounting was awesome.
Until it wasn't.
Tax accounting, not so awesome. And I know lots of people who are going to hear that and say, are you kidding me? You liked cost accounting? I loved cost accounting. It was awesome,
Well, and
but
how many
not the
times?
tax stuff.
Right. And how many times did we turn away from something that was our dream because there was some piece of us that wasn't equipped, couldn't do it, found it boring, right? Like, I wanted to be a doctor. I could not do calculus to save my soul. Now, would I have done something different? Yes. When I look back now, I'd have been like, you didn't even get a tutor. You didn't even try and figure it out. You were just like, whoa, this is too much. And I walked away. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't have done it that way now. You have to give yourself the grace to grow and change and develop and say, who I was then isn't who I am now. And you move from the spot you're at right now instead of worrying about what was back there or, cost accounting. I mean, maybe that's a future focus for you, right? Only be in cost accounting, Sandra. I don't know.
No, I think I found my niche,
I
and it is
agree.
not cost
It's
accounting.
not cost accounting.
And I was gonna say, I loved calculus,
That's
math minor here. I
See,
loved
had I known
calculus.
you,
You know what? No, because I could never be a doctor because if somebody shows me blood, I'm likely to pass out, so I would never have gotten past anatomy.
well, and you don't know the things you don't know till you don't know them.
I know I will pass out if I see blood.
I agree.
Guaranteed.
Yes, but
Unless it's my kid's blood,
right.
and then I'll get through the shock and the assisting them, and then I'll pass
Then
out.
that's good to know. Now I'll
Yeah.
be more cautious.
And I have had lots of experience where I can point to and say, "Absolutely, Sandra will get through the crises, and then she'll pass out."
I love that we talked about what does a career pivot mean. So we defined that we're not just talking about changing a job. We're talking about making a big change from where we are, what we've been doing, something that shakes everything up for us, defining that. And then we've decided that the path looks different for everybody. There's not a wrong reason to make a pivot. And there are some frameworks and questions you can ask yourself to decide if this is the right move. And then
Yeah.
it's okay to explore and figure out what's right for you. And it's also okay to decide the timing maybe isn't right.
Mhm. I think the other thing we've talked about is that there could be lots of reasons. Some of them could be work related.
Mm.
Some of them could be just what's going on in your life, period, and has nothing to do with work,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Those things could still impact your work.
Absolutely.
Yes. And that's
Ab
okay for sure.
Yeah.
But I really think you might want to reflect now on what questions about your career keep coming back or keep coming up for you, and then sit with those. Don't just keep pushing them aside because it feels inconvenient. And just like you spend every time networking or doing some personal development activity or meditating or working out, your career deserves that amount of attention and reflection. And it's okay to take that time.
I love this.
Good conversation. Until next week, I invite everyone that is listening, if you haven't already joined us, we have a community newsletter that goes out every week. So please join that at exposingthehiddenreality.com. We share reflections, resources, and conversations that build after the live button is off. I'll see you next week, Sandra.
See you next week.